He walked in like a ghost and gave me back my life. The bakery smelled of sugar and desperation. That might sound strange, but it's the truth. Every morning, walking through that door meant another day of trying to keep my head above water. The aroma of cinnamon and yeast was supposed to be comforting, but it just reminded me of everything I couldn't afford. My hands were always tired, not the kind of tired that a good night's sleep could fix. It was a deep, bone-aching weariness that settled in after years of early mornings and late nights, kneading dough, scrubbing floors, and worrying about bills I couldn't pay. Sleepless nights were my normal, tossing and turning, replaying numbers in my head, trying to figure out how to stretch every dollar until it screamed. The rent was always the monster under my bed. It loomed, dark and hungry, threatening to swallow me whole. Each month was a frantic scramble, a desperate juggling act of delaying payments, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, and praying for a miracle that never seemed to arrive. My clothes were old, faded from countless washes, and patched in places I hoped no one would notice. My shoes had holes in the soles, letting in the cold dampness of the street. I didn't own anything new. Everything I had was secondhand, a cast-off from someone else's life. I worked at the bakery 6 days a week, sometimes 7 if someone called in sick. I did everything, mixed the dough, shaped the loaves, iced the cakes, and served the customers. The pay was barely enough to cover the essentials, but it was all I had. Every day was a battle against exhaustion and despair, a constant struggle to keep going, but there was no quitting. If I quit, I lost whatever little I had. One afternoon, he came in. He was different from the other customers. He didn't have the polished shoes or the expensive coat that the other regulars in the neighborhood wore. His clothes looked worn, almost threadbare. His boots were scuffed and dusty. He had kind eyes. He stood by the pastry case for a long time, just looking. He didn't seem to be able to decide. So I smiled and asked if he needed help. He hesitated, then pointed to a simple roll, glazed with honey. "Just that," he said softly. When he reached the register, he pulled out a handful of crumpled bills and some loose change. He counted it carefully, his brow furrowed in concentration. It wasn't enough. He was a few coins short. Without thinking, I reached into my own small purse and added the difference. It was a small amount, but it was all I had for my bus fare home. He looked surprised, then grateful. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll pay you back," I smiled. "It's okay," I said. "Pay it forward." He smiled sadly, took the roll, and left. I didn't think much about it. I was too busy worrying about my own problems. I had worked a double shift and was exhausted, and walking home took forever. The next few days were the same as always. Long hours, aching muscles, and the constant weight of financial worry. I'd almost forgotten about the man with the kind eyes. Then, one morning, A fancy black car pulled up outside the bakery. A woman in an expensive suit got out and walked inside. She asked for me by name. My heart pounded. Something was wrong. Had I done something? She introduced herself as a lawyer. She said that she was looking for the person who had helped a man at the bakery a few days prior. I remembered the man with the honey roll, the coins I had spared to cover his purchase. I nodded nervously. She smiled kindly. He asked me to find you. She handed me a card. It was an invitation to an office building downtown. At the top of the card was a name, Thompson Industries. I recognized the name. It was one of the largest companies in the state. Confused and apprehensive, I went to the address the next day. The office was on the top floor of a skyscraper with panoramic views of the city. Everything was gleaming marble and polished wood. I felt completely out of place in my faded dress and worn shoes. I was led to a large corner office, and there he was, the man from the bakery, but he looked different. He was wearing an impeccably tailored suit. His hair was neatly combed. He looked like a different person. He stood up when he saw me, and his eyes lit up. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice warm and familiar. "Please sit down." I sat down, still reeling from the shock. He explained that he was the CEO of Thompson Industries. He had been struggling with a lot of personal issues and had felt lost and alone. He liked to walk around to reset and think. That day, he had forgotten his wallet. Then he told me that he had been watching me work at the bakery for weeks. He had seen my hard work, my kindness to the customers, and the quiet dignity with which I carried myself. He smiled. "I wanted to offer you something," he said. "A job. A chance to use your skills and talents in a different way." He offered me a position in his company, in a department that focused on community outreach. It paid more than I had ever dreamed of earning. It included benefits, health insurance, and opportunities for advancement. And it would be a job that allowed me to use my experiences to help others in need. Also, he had purchased my debt with the bakery. So suddenly, I found myself as the manager and was able to implement some changes with that. I had to hold back tears, realizing he was more than just some regular guy who was just as desperate as me. My life changed that day. I was able to pay off my debts, buy new clothes, and move into a decent apartment. And even better, I was able to help my neighbors, people who were struggling just as I had. He gave me something more valuable than money. He gave me hope. He gave me a sense of purpose. And he showed me that even the smallest act of kindness can have a profound impact on someone's life. He gave me nothing that I didn't earn, and everything that mattered